Okay, hi everyone. Today I want to show you how to do a square root by hand and also the background of the basics behind finding a square root, understanding the formula that people use to find it. Where does that formula come from? How do they get it? Okay, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the square root of 10. And we know that to start this, we first need to find a number that multiplies by itself, that goes towards 10 but doesn't go over 10. So that number is 3. Since 3 times 3 is 9, we can't use 4 because 4 times 4 is 16. So I'm going to put 3 up here, and then I'm going to do 3 times 3, which is 9, and I'm going to bring that down here. Now, just like in division, I'm just going to subtract that number and get the remaining number, which is 1. I'm going to add some decimals in here so that I can continue to bring down additional decimal places to continue with this square root. Now, at this point, what I'm trying to do is find the rest of the number after 3 that is going to make up for the difference remaining, which is 1. So 3 times 3 is 9, but we still need to find the remaining portion of this number, 3 decimal whatever it is, that's going to make it as close to 10 as possible when I multiply 3 point whatever times 3 point whatever to get 10. Now, to find that, I'm going to show you a way to figure it out for yourself. So 3 point x, and x is going to represent the decimal number that I'm missing, times 3 point x. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this multiplication with the x in place of the decimal. I'm going to keep the x there, and I'm going to try and solve for x after the fact, and I'll show you how we do that. So I'm going to start x times x. So that was this. Now I'm going to go 3 times x, just like you do in normal multiplication. Then I'm going to do 3 times x again, and then finally 3 times 3. Now, 3 times 3 was this number here. So we already did that when we did the first finding of the number that goes closest to 10. So this 3 times 3 has already been done. So now what I have to deal with is this portion, which is any portion of 3 that has been multiplied by the additional decimal, which is represented by x. And that has to make up for the 1, the 1 that is remaining after we do 3 times 3. So I'm going to try and simplify this to make it as easy as possible. So first I'm going to add this 3x plus 3x. So that's 6x plus x times x. And then I'm going to factor out an x. So I'm going to get 6 plus x times x. Now, if any of you have tried to derive or have tried to do a square root by hand, you'll know that this is actually the basics of the formula that they use to find the square root. They tell you to double the number you have, add the decimal or the next digit, and then multiply it times that digit. So here we have just figured that out. We just derived it. So over here, I'm going to put that over here. Now, they show you to do it like this. They show you to do double it, 6, and then put a blank space times blank space. And that blank space is where the decimal that you need to find goes. And this has to equal the remainder of your number or less. This portion here has to equal the remainder of your number or less. So, in our case, I happen to know what it is. It's 0.1. So I'm going to do 6.1 times 0.1. And that is going to give us 0.61. So we've got 6.1 times 0.1. We move the decimal over. We're going to get times 0.61. We're going to get 0.61. And now we're just going to do the subtraction on this, and we're going to get 0.39. So we figured out the next decimal is 0.1. And if we were to just do 3.1 times 3.1, we would get a number that if we subtracted it from 10, or if we went 10, subtract that number, we would get 0.39. This is the leftover number that 3.1 does not cover out of 10. So 0.39 is still missing. So we're going to try and make it more accurate. Excuse me. So what do we do now? Well, let's do our same kind of algebra here, except now we have two decimals that we know, and we're going to solve for the next one, and I'm going to call the next decimal a. So I'm going to do 3.1a times 3.1a. Alright, so first is a times a, then 0.1 times a, plus 3 times a. Then I'll do this, 0.1 times a, plus 0.1 times 0.1, or whoops, made a mistake there, times 0.1, plus 3 times 0.1. Getting confused with all the dots. Okay, and then plus, we have to do the last, the ones digit here, so 3 times a, plus 3 times 0.1, plus 3 times 3. Okay, so now we have to simplify this and reduce it to the numbers we need to find. And if you understand what we did here and what we did in this first step of finding 3, you'll understand that a lot of this multiplication has already been done just to find 3.1. In this first multiplication, we already did 3 times 3, so that's already been handled, and we show that over here. We already have 3. Then we did 3.1, so 3.1 has already been covered in this multiplication here to find this 0.61. So we can cross off all the numbers that have already been found, which is 3 and 0.1. So this was 0.1 times 0.1, we'll cross that off. So now we're only left with the numbers that still have an a, because those are the numbers that have not been multiplied into the overall square root yet. So now we're going to add those together. So I'm going to get a times a plus 3a plus this 3a plus 0.1a plus 0.1a. Now I'm going to simplify it even more. So I'm going to get 6a plus 0.1a plus a times a. And then I'm going to factor out the a. So I'm going to get 6 plus, oh man, I made a mistake again. Okay, sorry, I forgot that I had 2.1a's up here. So I'm going to have to add, oh, it was right here. So I'm going to make sure that this is 0.2a. Okay, so I've got 0.2. And then I've got plus a times a. Okay. Now, we get 6.2 plus a times a. And if you look up here, there's a relationship here. So it's double this number on top. So it's, instead of 3.1, it's 6.2 plus the value a. And we know that a goes there because a is in the next decimal place over. So it can't be in the tens place. So it has to be in the hundreds place. So that's why we can put that dash there to find the number after 6.2. And then we'll times it by that number because that's what our formula shows here and that's what we derived. And that should equal a number that's close to 0.039. Now I'm just going to bring down some extra decimal places here because as we get further into the like tens, hundreds places, we start getting more and more digits. So to cover those off, I'm going to add zeros here. So now 6.2, what 6.2 blank times blank is going to equal 0.39? Well, it happens to be 6. So, or it's actually 0.06, right? 0.06. And just to prove that to you, we're just going to do the multiplication here. So 6.26 times 0.06. So this means that we're going to have 4 decimal places. And we're going to do 36. 6 times 2 is 12, 15. Carry the 1. 6 times 6 is 36, so that's 37. And then put in the 4 decimal places. So our answer is 0.3756. So the extra 0.6 we added made up 0.3756 more, closer to 10. So 0.1 added 0.61, and then 0.06 added 0.3756. So we're getting very close to 10, and when we do this subtraction, we're going to see how much more we have to go closer to 10 to get the exact square root, which of course I don't think we're ever going to reach because this is an infinite decimal, but we're going to get closer and closer. So we're just going to do the math here. So 8, 10, 9, 10, and then we'll do the subtraction, 144. So this is 0.0144. So after we do 3.16 times 3.16, we're going to be 0.0144 away from the number 10. So that's a very accurate square root. Again, I mean, I guess it's all relative, but it's accurate to 2 decimals.